As hard as it is, this moment is important because what this French case is doing, not just in France, but around the world, is that we are finally having our Me Too moment for the everyman, the family man, the good dad, the nice guy. And what this lady is putting herself through, Gisele, I would not wish this on my worst enemy. But I want to go into the whole everyman thing. Seriously, I believe this is a big moment, at least in France, but I mean, everyone I know in the US is talking about this too. I'm going to keep him in the frame unless he does not want to be here as a little therapy dog for all of us as we walk through this. And I am not covering this case as much as I would like to because it is too much for me and impacts me too much. I am doing it sporadically because everything that I talk about is all roads lead back to this. So yeah, I'm going to pet you as we get through this, okay? By the way, if you want to know more about him, me, my life, go to my lives, any of this stuff, please join my Patreon. And, just keep up with my work over there. Travel, personal stories, blah, blah, blah. It's all over there. I'm not talking about my personal life as much for the whole internet after being, after that video about my essay going viral. Never again am I going to be that personal. At least not until I'm far beyond something. Anyway, broke my own rule, whatever. What a lot of men are finally being called out is the fact that they know exactly what they're doing. Now, who are these people? This has been going all over Twitter, where these dudes are going around and approaching a woman, scaring the crap out of her, and then giving her flowers. It's just such a funny joke. They literally go up to a woman, minding her business, give her a bunch of roses, being like, just kidding, look at the camera, you're on camera. So they violate her twice because now she's on the internet. Like, this is so much fun. But what I love about this is that, Cecilia Regina is the first one who really crystallized this for me and she used baby elephants to explain the way they train baby elephants is torturing them in all these ways of what's going to happen to them unless they submit. And so that by the time these baby elephants are adults, I am getting this wrong, by the way. She explained it so much better. Is that they have been so conditioned to know what could happen to them that they don't, the trainers don't even need to use violence anymore, even though the elephants are actually bigger than people because they know that so men have been doing to this. They know that we know that at any moment in time, any of these men who are probably all fathers, they're probably all fathers or husbands or boyfriends or something. We know at any moment they could turn on us and take our life. We're just supposed to assume none of them will if they love us. Okay, he is already like, wow, this is a lot. Okay, Mom. We're supposed to assume it's the boogeyman when they remind us on a regular basis that, just in case you forgot, we could take your life at any time. Just in case you forgot, right? And so they do this stuff. I love that they're telling them on themselves, because what this skit is about is like, we're scaring her. Just kidding. Here's a flower. But what they're really saying is, we know the social contract. We know that y'all have been conditioned to be terrified of us. And we are going to have so much fun with that so that you never forget that we know that you're all scared of us and you should be scared of us. And what they love to do, which is what they're doing in this trial right now with Gisele, is pretending like they don't know they're the danger. But we know y'all are the danger, and we know you know that you're the danger. And we know all of you, especially the heroes in the community, these firefighters, first and rescue, all these men who love to be the heroes in their community, they are all these men. But the funny thing is that these men are actually doing harm, right? I mean, these men are doing harm too. But they want to play stupid, and then they do skits like this. And it's like, yeah. Y'all literally telling yourselves by doing this stuff. And what's happening in this trial is all these men are like, but I'm not a rapist. I unintentionally raped her. Do not believe these men are stupid. They've been trying to do it with weaponized incompetence and literally everything. They go into stupid little boy as soon as they get caught doing anything. And they play on that. One of the biggest tricks that they've done is to convince us that they're dumb, while also somehow being smarter than all us so that they get to run the world, except in the areas they don't want to do. That they're just too dumb. And so they're doing it with this trial. Oh, I didn't understand consent. I'm literally in a libertine club. I am in a libertine community that is built on the foundation of these libertine dudes who are like, I understand. I love consent. I care about consent. You, bro, I have been to some of the max clubs. Do you understand? Like, these people who go to those clubs know exactly what consent is. They get kicked out of the clubs if a woman has to say no. Not always, but like, this is literally the rules because they want women to go there. To go to these libertine clubs like this, they will get kicked out if a woman has to say no more than once. They are banned for life. So these dudes actually are supposed to know more about consent than anybody, and they're like, I understand. They are all playing stupid. Oh, I'm a family man. I'm a good guy. I'm an everyman. The other men. And this is the thing with othering. This is why whenever I talk about racism and white supremacy, I try not to say they. I try to say we or us white women, because the more you other yourself, the more you are refusing to admit that you have been socialized this way and that you're aware of this, and you just don't want to be the bad one. You're bad or you're good. You're racist or you're not. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And this not all men, not all fill in the blank is a way of othering. And this Me Too moment in France is like, you can't other yourself anymore. These were all good guys, nice guys, dads, firemen, heroes. So the everyman is finally having his Me Too moment, and I'm here for it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate reading this. It is too much. It has literally made me physically ill reporting on this story. But this gives me so much hope because this is a moment, and it will change things. Doesn't mean it's going to change overnight, but the everyman is having his Me Too moment, and it is long overdue. You know who else is having a moment? The pickmes. This woman, this lawyer, shame on you. She literally is being one of the worst possible people in that courtroom. And then she's like, people harassing me now. You deserve this. The real revolution is holding abusers accountable. No, it's all the enablers too. The system, the trial, and also the abusers are literally statistically most likely to be the men you love most, including your sons. Don't let them move in with you. I got tagged in this video today. I'll try to remember to put the link and tag. Like, again, these firemen, these search and look at this. These paramedics are abusing patients in the trucks. And then been doing it. So it doesn't surprise me that these heroes in the community, the firemen, the paramedics, the search and rescues, they all want to be heroes. Like, every man, it's every man. Doesn't mean every single man is doing this, duh. But it's every man benefits from this violence. Every man benefits from the violence of the most violent man. They actually don't, the more violent men are, the more we will settle for men who just don't abuse us, right? So one of the biggest red flags in men, whether they are your friend or someone you start dating, if they're ever trying to other themselves from men as a collective, you really can't trust them because they're not doing that steep soul searching. Are you licking my fingers? Calming me down right now. They're trying to distance themselves as a man because they're not capable of all this violence. Yes, you are, bro. You may never do it. You may never want to do it, but all men are capable of this. It's like all white people are capable of this. It doesn't mean we want to, will, do, or are doing it. But if I am treated as a threat, I'm at the place now of my education where I understand why people might be afraid of me. I know what my ancestors have done. I know what collectively white women do. I don't expect anyone to trust me right out of the gate, and men shouldn't either. So I just want to go over some examples because this case is so telling in what we are collective, like all over the world. Because that's the thing, it's like a lot of people are like, love to talk about India, right? And we know, we've seen the horrifying stories out of India, especially the most recent one with that doctor. I talk about how violent the United States is, but never have I ever thought that it is not violent and not, all the things here in France, right? Just looks different. Maybe they don't all have pew-pews, right? Maybe their country wasn't built entirely on genocide and chattel slavery and violence. That doesn't mean, but like we come from y'all, my ancestors come from people who, this is a global problem. It looks different in different countries. It might be worse technically in certain countries, but that's why, again, Europe loves to has positioned itself as just so morally evolved, so much better than the United States and other countries. Europe, Western Europe, specific countries especially. Oh, look at us, socialized medicine. Universal health care, paternity leave, maternity leave, unions, blah, 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 blah. But we're still griping all of our wives and are super racist still. You know what I mean? By comparison, Europe loves to think, I'm sorry, I'm dragging y'all right now. Yes, I love my life here and I love a lot of things about it, but never have I ever thought that they have solved their colonial mindset and white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism thing. Clearly. Right? It's very dangerous for me to assume that a French man, just by being French, is any less violent in terms of sexual violence. He may not have the pew, 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 but that doesn't mean he couldn't hurt me just as much as any man from my country. So I kind of love that this very progressive country that's known for protests and all this stuff is having a huge reckoning right now. One that feminists here have been begging for forever and fighting for, and now this awful story is forcing it to the front of the conversation, and I'm here for it. Because if you don't know, grape is only grape if it's penetration and by surprise, violence, or forget the other one. The rules around it are crazy and outdated, and the fact that they can only go to prison for 20 years because if you grape one person or 100, it's the same. Right? The way this trial is being held is, I thought the U.S. trials were awful. This is what? For starters, you got this D-bag who literally said, the Guillaume, without the intention of committing grape, there is no grape. So here it is right here. Under French law, it has to include, y'all should, don't do this because it'll make you crazy. But in the court, they're literally arguing, was she penetrated or not? As if all the things that these men weren't doing to her weren't anyway. So penetration has to be done by constraint, violence, or surprise. And the lawyers are like, hello, surprise. Yeah. So the dude was literally, that lawyer, there's grape and then there's grape. And if the man doesn't know he's doing it, it's not grape. And that is what I'm talking about. They're like, but I didn't know I was grape in her. She was literally snoring. So this whole but I didn't know. First of all, they're lying. And the craziest part is that the way this woman is being treated, besides her lawyers and her family and the people supporting and applauding her, the only people in that courtroom who get to talk, who are on her side, is her husband who started this. What kind of world does the husband who orchestrated all of this, who did the most harm, is somehow on her side? Because these other dudes are like, but I didn't need to, or he made me. And then Dominique's like, no, bro, I told you. How is this man getting to be a hero? But why? Because the lawyers. It is so bad. The lawyers are so awful to her that her own husband, who caused all of this, who created all of this, who is the worst of all of them, is somehow gets to be heroes because of what the lawyers are doing. It's sickening. And so, I mean, this woman, she's just like, when you see a woman deeply asleep on her bed, isn't there a moment when you wonder, isn't there something wrong here? Grape is grape, she says angrily. Whether it's 3 minutes or an hour, it's absolutely despicable. Why is she even having to say this? And even the dudes who will admit that it was grape are still hiding behind, I would have never done this if I'd never met this bad man. And these stupid my client is the product of, his perversion. It's his fault. They would have never done this if it wasn't for that one bad man, instead of all of them being responsible and accountable for all being rapist. And look at this line right here. The dude who was that Dominique was training to be like a little mini me to get him to do this to his own wife. Look at this line right here. This man is one of the most despicable people in the whole trial, besides Dominique himself. He admits to raping his own wife. And he's the only defendant who says that he refused to abuse Gisele. Now, he's the hero. He's a hero. But look at this. I raped my wife, but I couldn't go and rape another woman. This came out of his own mouth. No, I raped my wife, but I'm not that bad to go do it to this other man's wife. I don't know how, I hope she lives through this trial. I don't know how she's handling it. She's like 70 or 70 something. How her heart can handle this after all those years of being drugged. I don't know if I can say that word. She's got people outside applauding her every day. She's got women all over France mobilizing, protesting. We believe you. We stand with you. Thank you. I just got chills saying that. The fact that that the men in that trial are not her biggest enemies right now. It's their lawyers. The lawyers who are all trying to say it was unintentional. Now, there's going to be some language issues in what I'm reporting because a lot of this stuff I'm referencing are French publication. And so AI or Google Translate is doing all this work. So it's going to get some things wrong. So please don't hold me completely accountable for this translation, okay? But look what they're doing to her. Ever since I arrived in this courtroom, I felt humiliated. She said, visibly angry. I've been called an alcoholic. I'm said to be Mr. Pelicot's accomplice. You have to have a certain amount of patience to put up with what I've heard. 72. This grandma. And here's the thing. She's the perfect victim. They're doing all this to the perfect victim. She has evidence. She has video of everything they did. She's literally snoring. Like, you could not get a more solid case against a bunch of rapists. And they're still doing this to her. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's believable. But, and it's as maddening as this is to watch. The whole world, because she opened this up to the public. Thank you for that. I can't imagine her going through this without the public. Because what they're doing to her in that courtroom, we get to see how they're treating her, which may make women more hesitant to fight this and put themselves through this, but it's also showing a very accurate account of what happens to even the most solid case, the most perfect victim, because there is no perfect victim. I mean, she has been humiliated, and we are just at the beginning. This is going to go on for 4 months. Please protect this woman's heart. Now, because she's doing all this, it has lifted the veil, and we're discovering a lot of things. We are discovering that all the systems. Now we get to see in court what the systems do to survivors. We get to see how gynecologists and doctors and all these people who just didn't see, they didn't catch any of this. We're getting to see that all these family men, not one of them reported what was happening. Even the ones who didn't do it, who left, weren't like, hey, police, there's this thing happening. Not a single one. This is where the middle-class pensioners and grandparents are the center of the Me Too movement for the everyman. Think about that. A grandma. They're doing this to a grandma with all 10 years of video evidence of the man who did it admits it. Several of them admit it. And yet this case, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I'm not sure that these men are going to be found guilty. She has the most solid case. Which reminds me of Chanel Miller's book, Know My Name. One of the best books I have ever read. And if you want to understand what Gisele is going through, and then like a tiny bit, please read that book. Because just like Brock Turner, all these men are, maybe their strategies are different, but at the end of the day, they're all thinking this, and they're literally saying this, that I don't have the heart of a rapist. And yet what is so telling, thank God they have the videos, is because they'll give this whole sob story about how they had the worst childhood. I'm going to get into some of those examples, and it's like nobody cares about her upbringing. Nobody's talking about. Oh, we get to hear all these men, every single one of them, about what kind of a childhood they had. Their dads were like, literally, they're calling their dads little, mustache man. We're supposed to feel so bad for them, so they could never intentionally hurt a fly because they're the victims, and now they're being victimized again because they're being humiliated and losing their families and blah. But in this rare occasion, they have video to show these men after they're like, but I didn't know. I don't have the heart of a great. And then they show the videos, and the courtroom is like, because she's literally snoring. And these men are very confident in what they're doing. And they're all just like, I was scared of Dominique. They don't look scared. This is seriously the most solid case I've ever seen. And yet still, I'm not sure if there will be any justice. Seriously. And a lot of it's because these lawyers. And they are complicit in the second grape, which, as anybody who knows, is what happens when the system itself grapes you while you're trying to get justice or even just talk about the original grape. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when a man was off to me at the river, and then I made the mistake of telling this story online. And what the internet did to me was so much more violent and traumatizing and literally made me sick. It was so much worse than what that one man did to me. I had no idea it could feel that awful until it literally happened to me. So I don't know. I can't imagine what she's going through, because that was just like one video, 1 million views, and like thousands of comments. This wasn't this. The whole world wasn't talking about this. I didn't have lawyers attacking me. I didn't have any of that stuff. But what they're doing to her is, I don't want to say it's just as violent, but I wouldn't be surprised if she feels as if it's just as violent as what her husband and all these men did to her. The lawyers, they have a moment of reckoning right now. The judges, all of them, everyone in this system. One of them's a woman, by the way, and I'm going to get to her in a minute. Despite her husband meticulously documenting this and even being very organized in his... It happened in her own bed, on camera, meticulously documented. She still has to prove that she didn't want it. Was literally unconscious and is having to fight for her life to prove that she didn't want it and wasn't complicit in her own grave. I don't know how many times she has to say, never for a single moment did I give my consent. She said the lawyers gave the impression that she was the guilty party and those 50 men the victim. And this is, again, I'm so glad she made this open and public, because at least she has us to support her, because otherwise she'd be alone in a room full of people doing all this and maybe just has her daughter or her family on her side. She at least has the public mostly on her side, or at least most men, hopefully, are not dumb enough to publicly say they're against. You know what I mean? So she said, when they said, maybe these men thought it was part of a game in the libertine world. There's grape, and then there's grape. And she's like, no, there's no different types of grape. Grape is grape. The dude finally apologized. I'm so sorry, blah, 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 shut up. No, you're not. So again, this other dude, Jean-Pierre, he the one who raped his wife and let this Dominique do it. Again, even the ones who are admitting it are still being, I'm in jail and I deserve it. 63-year-old man. What I did is appalling. I'm a criminal. Even when asked if he had been informed that she would be, wronged, he said yes. And then he said this, but I would have never done it had I not met Mr. Pelicot. He was reassuring and impressive. He reminded me of my daddy. I swear to God, all these men are trying to use their daddy issues to get out of stuff, which is so funny because they've been making fun of women for forever for having daddy issues, which is not a joke. We literally, this is why a lot of women go, date abusers, is because they're just like our dad, or we get, a lot of us end up with addictions or unaliving ourselves because of the things our own fathers did to us. And now they're like taking over daddy issues and using it to get out of the things they did to his own wife. We experienced terrible things from my father, and my mother tried to protect us, but she drank, so she was actually a mark too. All of them have a story. And at this point, I don't even believe, in the beginning, I was like, yeah, some of this makes sense because a lot of men will never deal with their trauma. They'll never go to therapy. They'll never do it. And then they just repeat the cycle of violence. But me and a lot of people I know are survivors, and we didn't go on to do this. And also, all these men conveniently have a story like this. All of y'all are survivors too? Oh, just like Drake Bell, I guess we're supposed to just not, be okay with whatever you do, whether it be DV or grooming. I've already talked about that, man. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch one of my videos. I've already addressed it. You can be a victim and a perpetrator at the same time, right? But now all of them conveniently seem to be a victim of something. All their dads were terrible. God forbid they be responsible. Now all of a sudden it's their dad's fault and their mom's fault for not protecting them from their dad. Oh, but you know what? He actually protected his sister, so he's a hero. And he's also a hero because he wouldn't do it to Gisele. He'd only do it to his own wife. This is what we call boy math or grapist math. I don't care that you had to watch your own mother and father doing it. What did you do to work on yourself to end that cycle of violence? At a certain point, they are not to blame for what you're doing. But it doesn't help that the lawyers, even this woman, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. She doesn't seem to remember, but those who received photos of her could have believed that she is indeed there. She's present. She moves. She speaks. This, Nadia, fuck you! This was from this person, by the way. For those who don't know, GHB and other don't just make you sleepy, that you can still be awake but unconscious. You can move. You can even do things. Some have aphrodisiac effects, by the way. These are by nature that alter your judgment, your actions, your brain function. They don't just make you sleepy. It's not just like alcohol either. And by the way, Gisele was literally snoring. I mean, the courtroom was so upset listening to her snore while this is happening. So she actually literally was asleep in a lot of this. Moreover, the effects of memory disorders can follow you for longer than hours after you are asleep. This is to say you can forget parts of your life from the next day. For example, realize a little later that you no longer remember what you did the next day. Like she was suffering from that. She didn't even know that she had gotten a haircut. She forgot. In short, people who question victims like this lady simply don't know anything about these or the chemical. But you know what? She doesn't even care. Because what these people are doing, the lawyers are doing, even though she's the victim, she is treated as if she's a tease, a swinger, an alcoholic, while the people moved by these are moved by the painful childhoods of all these 50 rapists. I just want to show you some of the stuff this one lawyer has done. For example, she said this quote, "When you receive photos like these, you can say to yourself that it's a woman who likes game." Not only is this lady trolling her in the courtroom, she's doing this on her own social media, which I don't know, in the US, there's a whole, you could be disbarred. I don't know if you could do this, you could be disbarred in the US for this, but this seems like this should not be allowed. On her Instagram, she's debriefed the scene with her followers. She got angry. I took the microphone saying that she was the one who wanted it to be public and that now it's not a question of complaint. 52,000 people. She said that. You asked for this, Gisele. You're second grade. Okay, Mose does not want to be on camera right now, so maybe he'll come back. We'll see. And by the way, another thank you for people who sent little gifts towards his vet bill. Very, very kind of you. We still don't know what's wrong. We're still waiting, but thank you, really, truly. But he's doing much better. He's very happy. He just can't walk for 6 weeks. Doctor's orders. Look at this. Now that she's being harassed by people for doing something ridiculous, which I would call the consequences of your own actions, nobody really cared who this lady was until she started doing all this. And now she's like, oh, no, I'm the victim. She sounds just like the men she's representing. She did something very harmful to somebody, went beyond just defending her client. She went above and beyond, like doing this stuff on Instagram. And now she's like, I'm the victim. This media pressure, this incessant media pressure muzzles me and prevents me from defending my client in part and serious attack on the integrity of the justice system, blah, 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 and represents a danger for the exercise. Like, what are you talking about, lady? She's probably super racist too, honestly. Justice cannot be rendered under the weight of public opinion. Actually, the way it works is sometimes we only get justice because of public opinion, because otherwise, do you think the judges care? And even when they're under pressure, they still do whatever they want. Harassing my children. She's filing a complaint for harassment. This is the same woman who put a video on her Instagram, filmed herself dancing to the chorus of the song, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. She deserves this backlash. At the same time, it's the pick-meism. It's the pick-meism in her that we all have. I don't know a single woman who's not on the pick-me spectrum because we had to be to survive patriarchy. And now we're all trying to, well, not all of us, are trying to unlearn this stuff because we are suffering from it. But I actually want there to be accountability for people who enable this stuff. Or just make it worse for fun. This person says, what bothers me a lot about her attitude, apart from the facts, is that she tries to have the spotlight on her to be the center of the attention. This woman got raped by 80, it's more than 80, including some of your clients. Stay in the shadows. Like, why? Like, that is what bothers me too. This lady is literally like making fun of Gisele on her platform while also terrorizing her in the courtroom. And it's like, I'm being a victim. It's not fair. Do your job, lady, because whatever you're doing on social media is not your job. She's probably just pissed that she's not getting murals of her all over the country. As Francesca Ramsey says, it sings a beautiful song about it, you know, about... I never thought the leopards would eat my face. They're gonna eat your face, lady. I don't know why you think that you are safe. What's so funny is this town itself is like, a village of men. I can't find the quote right now, but the mayor of that town was like, wait a second, we're not all rapists. I wish y'all have like 100 photos that I'm doing this with right now, but just Google. He said something so ridiculous, I'm not even gonna, it was worse than what you can imagine. What I do love is that a lot of women who've been talking about this for a really long time are being paid attention to more in terms of the hard work they've been doing. This is a really great, so this was for France Info. You can do Google Translate. This is the Me Too moment for the average Joe, the everyman, the good dad, the blah, blah, blah. She talks about in here that the good father was an abstract figure of the law that was supposed to represent, you know, the normal man, as opposed to the monster. The good father gives themselves a clear conscience because they build themselves in opposition to the other. This is what I was talking about earlier, including the monsters that they consider to be the violent men. The others are the schmurial unalivers, the madman, the marginalized person who's not integrated. And this is how France's racism is usually hidden behind the dog whistles around immigration, right? But it's literally just racism, and especially anti-blackness, but it's racism against anybody not white, and especially against black and brown men, right? especially if they have a particular accent, because they're going to also be treated very differently if they have a U.S. American accent versus from the country from one that they colonized. So it's the alcoholic man, it's the man, it's the whatever. And this category of the other allows good fathers to avoid facing the truth that violence exists in all classes and in all backgrounds. By the way, they don't actually care about when they use it for racism, about the women, that unless they're white women, right? They do not care about black women. I know that. They don't care about black women in the U.S. either. They don't care about any of these immigrant women. They don't care about them unless they use it to justify white supremacy, right? That's exactly what happens in the U.S. Statistically, 9 out of 10 victims of or attempted rape know their attacker 45% of the cases is their spouse or their ex-spouse. Feminists have been saying this forever. The statistics, facts, sociologists, everybody's been saying this for a long time. Activists, but the other keeps these men safe. Good fathers continue to defend the theory of the other to persist, so it persists in representation. And I love that she says this in this interview. I am not saying that men meet up in the evening to decide together on the best strategy to maintain schmexual violence and a grape culture. It is more subtle. It's like an understanding, and the community they build is around power and maintaining that power. So they're not having meetings of being like, how do we, like they're not that organized and they're too lazy for that, right? They just have an understanding of the way we were conditioned and they were conditioned. Like those men who all go up to a woman at once and she goes, "Woo!" and then they give her flowers. They understand, but they pretend to not understand because they're just stupid. Nobody taught them this in school. One man literally said, I blame society. They didn't teach me in school. They take up these arguments in the courtrooms. It's impossible. I know him. He's my friend. Blah, blah, blah. I'm in favor of me too. But what about the witch hunt? Right? By systematically defending each other, by diverting attention to the other categories of men who are solely responsible for violence against women and children, by attacking victims who speak out, and the feminists who support them, or by remaining silent entirely, which is what most of the men do. I would say they are all silent, or they attack victims, blah, 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 ask the questions like devil's advocate, whatever. They block the advancements of women's rights. So if you are silent and you are a man, you are blocking my rights and all the women you claim to love rights. You are guilty of enabling all this violence. I don't know how long we need to spell this out for you. I know you're not dumb. She goes on to say that basically this moment is so big because sometimes there's just no denying it when you see such a clear example like this. Look at him just like peeking. That, it could happen in the family. In fact, it seems in this case to happen only with family men. We can finally, as a society, accept that it's oftentimes someone we love, a family, because there's so much incest in this case. I'm really glad it came out because I, especially a survivor of this, I believe it's a very big problem. It's probably one of the least talked about. So family member, partner, whatever, feelings of love and loyalty, they prevent us from confronting the truth. As long as we do not face reality and we do not name things properly, it will be difficult to fight against the violence, to put it in place policies to stem. So again, this is laying the groundwork for any future policy. This moment, it sucks, y'all. It sucks, but this moment had to happen. And I don't even know if any policy will come from this, but this is very important groundwork of truth, hard truth, right? Do not lose hope because it feels so hopeless. This is a necessary step for the next things to happen. This is how it's always happened. Every movement of liberation has always usually started with something so awful that was already bad, but a moment that was so awful that shocked the group of people into finally accepting something. And that laid the groundwork slowly by step for actual policy change and real change. This is a necessary moment for people who are hopeless and are like, oh my God! This is how it's been. Nothing has changed. This is how it's always been. We are just having to face it. Face it. And this is a really hard part. It also talks about this unintentional rape. A lot of these men, thought that it was consent because the husband, delegation of consent. A lot of men seem to think based on, and honestly, I think some of these men didn't think this. I think some of them were just lying. But, I didn't realize that so many of my encounters when I was younger was actually sexual assault until Me Too. When it hit Hollywood, at least. When things really blew up and the hashtag went viral. I started reading other women's stories and I was like, oh my God. Oh, that's right. My friend, I'm not going to say your name. I doubt you're watching. From high school, when I woke up from a blackout and he was undoing my pants on top of me in a field. I grew up in Tennessee. We partied in fields around. Hey. And I was like, oh, wow, I just barely missed that grape. Like all these stories talk about, because I didn't even, you know what I mean? So yeah, okay. Some of us have a lot more conditioning to unlearn. But like this right here, a lot of men truly still believe this idea that the husband possesses the wife. This also illustrates a form of trivialization of DV, even though it represents 45 interventions per hour by police. It is somewhere thinking that the husband has a right of life or death over his wife and children, or that if the law of the patriarch is not respected, he has the right to crack down. I mean, at least here in France, until 1975, it was okay to unalive your wife if she was caught with another man. If you're a good father and she was a bad wife, then okay, like I get why you'd be upset and just. This thinking, don't think it's like hasn't just got to just go away. And does the discourse of good fathers and the blaming a victim contribute to how does that contribute to the silence? This is why the shame changes sides. That's why that's kind of the slogan of this whole thing. Because I've done this too. Do you know how many times I've blamed myself for my own assault? Because this system taught me to. Telling herself she made a mistake, a fault, or that somehow deserved it, which is exactly what all those women in my comments, thousands of women did when I was talking about my essay at the river a few weeks ago. But you were wearing a bathing suit. Why were you swimming? Why were you alone? Public swimming place. Summer, hot day. I go lots of places alone. We even blame ourselves. So whenever women are blaming me for something that men did to me, I know that they blame themselves. Like that's a key giveaway for anything that men have ever done for them, that they're just projecting that onto me. It's annoying as hell and it traumatizes survivors. So then she talks about we're always looking for the error, the faults that the victim may have committed for the violence to befall. This is the important part. Gisele was a good victim though. That's why this is the perfect case. She's older, she's a grandma, she's socially integrated, she was unconscious. There's photos and videos to prove he did all of it, yet still victim blame. And still being accused of being accomplice in her own. So why is her having this public so important? Why is this trial so important? Because her fight is all victims' fight, although they usually don't have as much as solid of a case and they're not a good victim, you know what I mean? Like if I went to trial for this, all they do is bring up all of the articles that I've written about having so many one-night stands with men, and that would automatically make me a bad victim. Because in a position that politicizes the subject, the media coverage of the debate creates discussion with society. Her refusal, sometimes they don't get the whatever, this is just a Google Translate problem. Her refusal to go behind closed doors is basically putting a spotlight on about what actually happens in the family sphere, and the good dad pushes back against this idea that what happens in the family is much different than what crazy serial unalivers do. She's basically airing the dirty laundry of her own family so that other people, other survivors can have more courage if they want to. Do not pressure anyone to do this, to air the dirty family laundry of their family. The intimate is political. The private life is political. What happens in the bedroom is political. Even if it's your house with your partner, that what happens in the criminal network happens in families. You could have a family man orchestrating something that usually you would only associate with something like a mafia. And even they wouldn't probably do this. It says, I think there's also a synchronicity of events. This trial comes several years after the start of the Me Too movement here in France, after all the work that has been done in the protests, in books, and in social media, right? All this groundwork was laid about the big stars, the producers, the men at work doing this. This is in some way the first major Me Too trial in France, because in these cases, we are often confronted with the statute of limitations and with dismissal. This is our first Me Too trial that is of the everyman. I said that like several days ago in a video that the family man is finally having their Me Too moment, because before it was just like the man at work, the celebrity, whatever. Now it's all of them, especially the hero. With this trial in France, hopefully elsewhere too, we are broadening the subject. It is all men, and it may be a turning point. This trial so this is the hope, y'all. This is the hope. I know this is a very hard subject, very hard time, especially with Diddy. With the Olympian who was burned, the doctor who work in India, all of these, it's just back after back. I don't know. It just won't stop. It's so hard. Man who put his wife and mother of his 2 children in the blender. It's too much. You don't have to read all this. Just know this is the necessary groundwork for the next level of change. This trial alone sets in stone the idea that this violence is the work of Mr. Everyman. Feminist activism has been carrying this idea for years. We've been saying this for a long time, but perhaps in restricted circles. And also people just not listening to us. This trial, it is certain that everyone now hears it. Your grandmas are talking about it. Everyone's talking. You can't escape this. This is everywhere in France. This is like all over the news. Maybe not as much as the Olympics, but it's up there. It's everywhere. Everyone, like, you will not meet, I doubt you will meet anyone in France unless they literally can't read or cut off from social media who doesn't know what's happening. Maybe they're not following it closely, but we all have to look at it. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest. It's really tiring being here right now looking at this every day. But, I'm letting myself not read it every day too. And so these men are telling on themselves, because even though they're on trial in front of all these people for horrific things, they still are trying to other themselves. I can't compare myself to this man, Dominique. I lived through this, but my life fell apart because of this, because of him making me do this. All of them think that they should be able to just go back to a better life. He just wants to, this is one of many, and I just want to rebuild my life to be a better partner. Dude, no one should ever touch you again. You should not be allowed to date at this point, but want better partner to his new girlfriend and a better father for your children. They all just want to keep, my mistake. Men learn their lessons through the trauma that they put us through. Learned my lesson, screwed over my ex-wife, now I'll do better with this new one. Okay, sure you will. You're bringing in everybody. This 72-year-old man, married, 25 years, 2 children, former fireman. Everyone close to him says he's kind, attentive, open to others. He's religious, so he gives himself. Yeah, okay. He's retired now. He tries to do good. That's the thing, is most of these men are retired. These are grandpas. Your grandpas. It's not just an everyman Me Too. This is grandpa's Me Too as well. I have a deep respect for women. If my ex-wife were here, she'd say, he loves the woman and all her diversity and complexity. And luckily, some of the lawyers are like, how can you say all that and also know that you're here for graping an unconscious woman? Anytime these men are trying to play like, he made me do it, the only person on Gisele's side, other than her lawyers and her family, but are part of this case, is, again, her husband, the worst of them. He's all like, no, the only thing, I didn't dominate these men. The only request I had was to stop him from hurting her or being violent. One of the dudes was literally choking her with his in her mouth. And the husband's like, no, she's. But these guys guys are all, they're a victim of this really big mastermind manipulator who dominated them and made them rape an unconscious woman. They just, and you know, they just don't understand consent, or they're a libertine and they love to give pleasure. This is just them giving pleasure. I mean, she's asleep, but whatever. Like, it is unbelievable. All right, it's not totally unbelievable. It's so predictable. Oh, let me just show you some more examples, and then I'm going to wrap this up because I have been talking for almost an hour, and this is a very hard subject. So one of the things that's really pissing me off is the fact that she wanted this thing public, but they are not going to let the videos be shown for the men who are admitting that they actually did it versus the ones who are like, I didn't do it, I didn't that. The ones who are admitting it, they're not going to show the videos. Because the president, I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever, the person making the decision says, you know, trying to protect the public from something so indecent and shocking. Her attorneys are asking that all the videos be shown, even for the ones who are admitting it. There's also so many instances of this. I need y'all to understand how common this is. This happened to me. Family member showing me corn and off to it. Next to me, this is a lot of these men on trial right now are guilty of that too in their own family. The family men, they don't know. Even this Leonel, I'm gonna call him Lionel. Lionel. They all have some story of like, you know, I didn't think about that time in my childhood where this man did all this stuff to me. I had a temperature. This is literally, all of them have this story, and maybe it's true, but they also could be completely lying about it because they all want us to feel bad for them. I mean, it was inevitable, right? Which is so insulting to other survivors of childhood SA because I'm like, wait, don't lump me in with you. If you like, you're like making it sound like all survivors are just doomed to do this. And then he's like, well, I also, with my children. Oh, but I was drinking. I was not vigilant that day. It was horrible, but they're children. They've never said I've seen that. You know, did it impact them? Yeah, but we were able to work on it and work through it. That kind of thing. By the way, just so you know, it will literally set, especially the closer they are to you, that will set you up. Like this, I can't tell you how many times I've been told that I am lucky that I didn't die of an addiction or unaliving, because when a family member is doing this kind of stuff, you are literally like on the fast track to self-harm. And he's like, the fact that he minimizes his own abuse to his own children, but then wants to use his abuse, his alleged abuse, as a get out of jail free card for what he did as an adult to a 72-year-old grandma. And then they all were like complaining, which is one way of blaming their wives. Well, I mean, I was asking for more. My wife wouldn't give it to me, so I had to turn to cocoa, which is the site. But I'm reformed. You know, I have a partner now. I've been going to a psychologist. This isn't me. Sure, it's not. So the president of the Pétanque Club, if you don't know what that is, it's the thing where they throw silver balls. Huge sport here in France. They're like, so why didn't you talk about this? I didn't, you know, and I believe that men do not talk about their own SA. I'm not saying this didn't happen to him, but all of a sudden it seems to be really important in this trial, but his own children, which is way more impactful, by the way, they got over it. It's no big deal. I'm still a good dad. Oh, like a lot of these dudes, he was a swinger as well. And he's like, boo-hoo, my 3 children, one won't talk to me anymore. And people are telling them not to talk to me. You know, jail was good for me because it helped me understand who I am as a man and determining the man and the father I want to be. So everybody just forget all this nonsense. Let me just go back to normal. I had my time of thinking hard. And it had consequences, like my daughter not wanting to hang out with me. But I'm going to do better now. Just let me off. Don't make me go to jail. He, like all the men in this case, really admired women. Let his wife work and do whatever. And people asked him, did you feel bad about this? Well, a little bit, you know, but I just wanted to forget it and move on. All these men just want to move on. Move on. Can we just move on now? No, you cannot. Experts say, this drives me crazy. Look at this. One of the lawyers. Experts say that you are weak and it may come from what you suffered as a child. That his lawyer said that, right? Since what I experienced in childhood, it was so complicated for me to oppose, complicated to say no to Dominique because he made me do it. Because some man, the Petanque Club president, little man, whatever. No, I can't say no to Dominique. It's Dominique's fault. Shut up. But you lost your job, your partner, maybe your children. Oh, it's so bad for you. You do everything to try to repair as much as possible the harm that has been done. Yes, I wanted to put my whole life back on track. All the mistakes. Look, I've told you that they minimize it as a mistake. Not trauma, not a crime. Mistake that I could have made. I tried. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Well, I'm not. Can't you relate to that? Just let me not go to jail, okay? Because I'm not perfect. You're not. I'm just like everybody else. I try to be a better companion. I'll try to be a better father. This is literally what all of them are doing, pretty much. And it's maddening, but it's so predictable. According to Dominique, you're perfectly aware of the situation. And all this whatever. Mr. Pelicot was very bossy. This is where men will play dumb. Do not let them play dumb. I mean, he talked to me about giving the pills. But I don't know if it's him who gives it to her. Or her who takes them. Maybe she took the pills herself. I think it's a game, That's what I thought it was a game. So I didn't ask questions. There's a reason why these men don't ask questions. They don't want the answers. They know the answers. And if they ask questions, then they are complicit. They feign ignorance. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was raping her. I didn't know. Did you have contact with her? No. But isn't it normal to have consent in agreement with the late? Because in the libertine world, there's all supposed conversations that are supposed to happen. No, I didn't. But it's my biggest mistake from the start to not have asked her myself. It just seemed impossible that a man could grape his own wife. Even though statistically, that's the people who do it most. By the way, this dude did not take an HIV test and did not wear a protection. Most of them did not. This dude also kept saying he lost his footing, which is maybe some saying in French that I don't understand, but it's annoying. He uses it over and over again. I literally have videotapes showing him whispering so that she doesn't wake up. He says crap like this. I don't even remember penetrating her. If I don't remember it, it didn't happen. He also, by the way, was sending videos of him and his wife without her consent to Dominique. This whole thing of I was afraid of him. Did you send them before or after you did this? After. But I was afraid of, even without threats, I was still afraid of him. So when you left his house, you didn't block his phone? You're so afraid of him? No. They have videos to prove everything this man is saying is BS. And he's like, but and this, again, is what almost all of them are saying. I feel guilty of the grape, but not of the intention. Okay? I was not in my car telling myself I'm going to go grape this woman. Do you think any man, most men are not being like, you know. Yeah, I've talked about this too with racism too. White supremacy is so indoctrinated in us that I don't even think most racists, the not as obvious form of, not I'm going to do this thing because it is very racist, and not that doesn't mean, white women, for example, that doesn't mean we don't know our power. We absolutely know our power. We absolutely know. We know. We may not ever admit it to ourselves out loud. We may not consciously think these thoughts, but we know the power we have in this society. We all know. I'm going to talk about the United States at least. I believe that it's not just in the U.S., but I get dragged every time I insinuate that white women anywhere else would ever use their power for racism. But okay, white women know, men know that on a dime, they can do something to put someone's life in danger. So they may not sit in their car and be like, I'm going to go grape this woman. You know. So this must be involuntary grape. What? How is this even a word? What's my intention? In your opinion, what should be done to stop this from happening again? Is it the fault of a pervert society, your school? It's a bit of fault of everything. Not of Gisele, of course. It's all of our faults. It's all of ours. My actions should make all of us think. So you guys are all guilty as me, okay? It should make us think. I think this try outside is a high profile, la 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 la. Oh, and it will. Like that last article I was talking about. But he's trying to use this being a moment for social change to get him off the hook for any accountability. And all of them are doing it. It's mad. I'm going to stop here because I just can't. Anyway, all of these men knew exactly what they were doing. The ones who may not admit it to themselves that they were doing it, you know for a fact something felt off. And they just kept doing it anyway because they wanted to. The video will probably be demonetized like most of them. Let me know what you think. Thanks for supporting my work.